What's going on, guys and girls? It's Ghost Robo, and I just played Kingdom Hearts 3. The game is real, the game has to be close, and I got a whole lot of goodies for you, because not only did I play 2 different demos of Kingdom Hearts 3 on PlayStation 4, but I also got to sit through a panel with Nomura himself and learn some very interesting details about the game that I'm about to share with you. So, I flew down to Los Angeles, drove up to Santa Monica, and played Kingdom Hearts 3. Right now you're witnessing some B-roll gameplay footage, but in a second we're going to switch over to my own gameplay. They did not let us direct capture at the event, but we were allowed to record over the shoulder, so now you're seeing me and the game. First, before we played the game, though, we got to hear Nomura and others from the development team talk about the title. And of course, they went through some pretty standard fare about how excited they are and that the game is progressing well, and they had such an emphasis on bringing Pixar aboard, which I thought was really cool. Nomura said that he himself felt it was necessary to bring Pixar and talk to Disney about it. And just how they really have gone to the tens with the Disney integration. You're seeing me go through an attack here, a special attack, inside of a basically electrical parade teacup. Super freaking cool. I love that they have these attractions built in where you get to utilize theme park rides as part of your attacks. Very freaking cool. But we also got to see a video of the development process, and there they showed some things that I don't think have been seen before. We got to see Rapunzel in action from Tangled, and how she carries her hair around and uses that to not only whip opponents and enemies, but also to attach on to things in the environment and then create attacks out of that. So she threw her hair up to a giant tree and then swung around, kicking Heartless in her way. We also got to see the Tangled world, which is very cool looking, very pretty. And we got to see Monsters, Inc., which I think has been shown before, but made me very happy because I'm a huge Pixar person, so that was awesome. Nomura also had some interesting details on how the story would be darker, and the most intriguing part was when he discussed the ending and said he thought it would be difficult for fans to take and that some wouldn't be able to. Now, I don't know exactly what that means, but if you're familiar with Kingdom Hearts lore and you've played all the games, I'm sure you can guess and have some general idea of what he's talking about. But I thought that was like a really interesting note, that it's not necessarily going to be a happy, fun time, and that Kingdom Hearts 3 is about resolution, and he thinks fans and players will experience a whole lot of resolution from their time with the games in 3. No release date was discussed, but I have to imagine it's got to be close. The fact that they're flying YouTubers out to play the game and streamers out to play the game means that it's nearing completion. I don't know if that means a 2018 release or an early 2019 release, but I would be surprised if this thing wasn't out within the next year. I think it may even be 6 months, because it's very odd that they let a game of this stature and from a Japanese developer, it's very odd that they let YouTubers play it if it is super early. Now, playing it itself was really fun. It is a spectacle to behold. Here I'm using Buzz's Astro Orbiter that's all decked out in electrical lights to fire at these enemies. Got to play a Toy Story section. That world is now called Toy Box. And I got to play Mount Olympus, which is the Hercules world. Now, the Mount Olympus section was very short, and you'll get to see that in the footage later. But the Toy Story section was pretty expansive. And Nomura said it was about 30% of the full size of the Toy Story world. Now, I got to play inside of Andy's house, in the street in front of Andy's house, and at this Galaxy toy store that had multiple levels and multiple stores within the store, if that makes sense. There was a boss battle here that I'm not allowed to show you, but I did get to take on some cool enemies, like those dinos you already saw, and then many different Heartless, as you're seeing here. Another interesting feature that you've probably already read in the previews now is that you can switch Keyblades mid-combat, and that really affected my time in Toy Box, because being able to take the Toy Story Keyblade and then switch to the Tangled Keyblade and then switch to the Monsters, Inc. Keyblade and all of the special attacks that come out of that, very cool. And the fact that you can do it mid-combo, the fact that you can do it mid-combat was very impressive and very fun. Now, I think they had the demo tuned pretty easy because I was just hitting special after special and I didn't die once. I expect that it will be a little bit more difficult once the final product released, but it was really awesome to be a part of these Disney worlds. If you know me, I'm a humongous Disney fan. I have an annual pass to both parks on both coasts, even though I don't live there, which may make little sense, but I love it. And so seeing these worlds realized in such a near movie quality way was impressive. They wouldn't let me capture any of the cutscenes, but those look so good, especially in Toy Story World, especially since Sora and Donald and Goofy are all toyed out themselves. They look like they're made out of Legos or Bionicle or something of the sort. That added a lot. And there were some pretty good jokes. Like, Rex is pretty darn funny. He thinks that Sora is this magical hero from a video game that he loves, and it's pretty freaking funny. And they assume that Goofy and Donald are these sidekicks. I don't know. It's pretty cute. But I think that all of this spectacle was the star of the show. I transformed into a giant Peter Pan-esque pirate ship right now, and I'm rocking back and forth, just taking out tons of Heartless as I go. I mentioned I played on the PlayStation 4. It controls pretty simply. X is your attack, triangle is your special, square is your dodge. You're using the R triggers to lock on, and then you're using the D-pad, obviously, to move through your options. I really felt like the combat was fluid. Switching keyblades, again, added a lot of option and a lot of variety. And whether we were fighting in the middle of the street, fighting in the toy store, or fighting a giant titan, as you'll see, it was fun to control Sora, and pretty cool. I'm excited to see how many Keyblades there are, and how far you can sort of take things in terms of comboing and chaining, especially as it gets more difficult, and some of the bosses, and even the difficulty levels, like where that all plays out. You've probably also seen, but I'll mention it, these links, which are these basically summons. And one of them is Wreck-It Ralph, and that is freaking sweet. I love Wreck-It Ralph, and I just love the commitment to doubling down on Disney. You know, Nomura was talking during the panel about how they strive to put so much nuance and so much detail in every corner of the maps, in every corner of the world, and that it really is about bringing these movies, these characters, these worlds to life in bigger and better ways than ever before. And the scope is pretty darn awesome, as well as the transition. Now, I don't know, sometimes for a demo, loads are not how they'll be in the final version. So there are quite a few loads here, but I was happy to see, like, when you jump out of Andy's window from room to roof, there's no load, and that was consistent. And again, you could hop down in the street and continue playing, which is very cool. Obviously, you'll see we go to the toy store, and you kind of hit a hard load. But if they're able to keep most of it open, that is going to play a big part in my immersion. I love this one right here. This may have been my favorite because you get to directly control this rocket just like in the movies. And I love how they've incorporated so many of the items, I guess you'd call them, or props from the movies, from the films, into these attacks. It's just so freaking wonderful. Here was a unique style of gameplay. In the toy store, it's all about using these robots. And there are 3 different kinds of robots that each had a different special move. So they all were able to fire a blaster, all were able to punch, all were able to hover, but then they each had a special move. One fired a barrage, one tackled, stuff like that. At this point in the storyline, they established that there are 2 separate universes existing simultaneously, and a lot of the toys have been transported and taken to this alternate universe. So Slinky Dog is missing, Bo Peep is missing. It's basically just Woody, Buzz, Rex, and Ham, and the Army Men that are left. Now, I wouldn't be surprised to find a few other along the way, but lore-wise, it sounds like that's going to be a pretty heavy part of the concept, at least during this portion of the game. I have no idea if Toy Story, Toy Box, if it's early in the game, late in the game, and I'm wondering how much Pixar they put in. We've seen Wreck-It Ralph is not going to be a world, but rather a summon. There is a Monsters, Inc. world, which is very cool. I wonder if we'll get some Bugs Life inclusion. I love Bugs Life. I'd love to see that. Or, maybe Finding Nemo, perhaps Wall-E. Any callbacks would be really, really nifty. I think my biggest excitement for this game is just how many of the movies I love are integrated. The combat is cool, albeit easy. I don't know the Kingdom Hearts on the baseline difficulty when you're just fighting mobs has ever been super challenging, and this demo, as I mentioned, may have been tuned so you could really experience a lot of these special attacks and a lot of the attractions. But I do hope that the main game is a bit more challenging. Movement, slightly clunky. I guess that's kind of how Kingdom Hearts movement is, but you're running up a lot of walls, hopping up a lot of structures and cartons and crates, and it was a little clunky, as was climbing this Titan right here. A little bit awkward, but once you got up, combat was cool, and being able to use the big Magic Mountain attraction was probably the highlight of the demo, only because it looked absolutely insane, and I love the parks, so seeing this actually happen, like you're riding a ride through this boss's head and finishing him off, pretty freaking crazy. I wonder how many attractions there are And just, again, like, I cannot emphasize enough how transitioning between Keyblades and then utilizing the special attacks of each Keyblade really enhanced the combat and made it feel fresh and fluid and fun throughout. So if you guys have any questions about Kingdom Hearts 3, let me know. Like I said, I got to play for about an hour, and to me, the highlights and takeaways were the Keyblade switching and the attractions make the combat just an insane spectacle and pretty freaking fresh and fast-paced. Nomura's mention of a difficult ending has me very, very, very concerned / intrigued. And then getting to see like Rapunzel in the Monsters Inc. world, even though I'm not able to show it to you, was very, very cool. And I think you guys will be pretty pumped to see more of the game. Nomura promised that they'll have a lot at E3, so I cannot wait for that. I've got some more footage, so there'll probably be some more videos as well. Like I said, if you have any questions, let me know. I'll read through those and answer them as we move through the content. Big thanks to Square Enix for bringing me to the event. It was a lot of fun. Mickey Mouse made an appearance, and a whole lot of nostalgia as Kingdom Hearts returns, and it sure seems closer than ever. So thanks so much, guys and girls. Hope you're having a fantastic day. I definitely want to know what you think of Kingdom Hearts 3 now that there's more footage out there, and now that you heard my experience, so let me know. Until that time, though, drink so much all. Thanks again, and we will see you all later.